Shameful admission time. Until deciding to make this video, I had never played Destiny 2. Go ahead and get all your fake gamer comments out now, then we'll talk about it.
Don't let the internet dissuade you. Everyone has to start sometime.
It's true, and I was lucky enough to start playing at the best possible time. Destiny 2 has been free to play for a few years now, but Bungie made the Shadowkeep, Beyond Light, and Witch Queen expansions also free for a limited time, letting me get a taste of pretty much everything the game has to offer. I'm hoping that by sharing my experience in this video, I can help ease some of the fears that other newcomers might have about trying out a live game that's been around for a while. So, here's how it went. Let's clarify something first. This won't be a story explainer because I definitely don't know it all, and it won't be a comprehensive beginner's guide because I am not well versed enough in the game to do that. Besides, the community has already put together a giant guide that covers basically every aspect of the game like a college textbook. That's linked in the description for anyone who's curious. Of course, the size of that document kinda proves my point. Getting into Destiny 2 can be hard. It's been around for 5 years, and it's been free to play for a majority of that time, so there's a lot of changing content that can make things confusing. By the end of this video, I hope I can clear a lot of that up. Luckily, I had my own canary in the coal mine when it came to covering Destiny. My good friend Sidney is an original Destiny player and picked up the sequel at launch. She also lent her voice to my Loop Hero video, so be sure to thank her in the comments for that since she doesn't do social media.
The only reason why we really picked up Destiny was because it was obviously, you know, the child of the same group that made the Halo franchise. Like, so originally they were toting like big open living world game, and I think I was just very desperate for a space shooty game. And so like, yeah, we started off with Destiny. And so when Destiny 2 came out, it was like, maybe, granted my relationship with Destiny 1 wasn't phenomenal, but I was like, Destiny 2, maybe you'll be better. So we gave that a go for a good long while.
Sid's comment about a space shooty game like Halo is a great way to boil down Destiny 2. At its core, the game offers a campaign that plays like any other great FPS. That goes for the basic story and all the expansion campaigns too. The difference is that it's surrounded by lots of other multiplayer activities and live events. I found that to be a helpful way to compartmentalize the game. I could play missions, with or without others, and a good number of them just happened to be built with co-op in mind. Simply thinking of Destiny 2 in that way made the whole thing seem much less intimidating.
Sometimes you just need to take that first step.
And step 1 in starting this space shooty game was to create my Guardian. Destiny 2 offers 3 different classes to choose from. Titans are the big, tough tank types, Hunters are more agile characters that stay on the move, and Warlocks, as the name implies, are like wizards with space magic.
The first one I did, Warlock, and I was way too far into it to like back out at a certain point when I realized how much I hated the jump, because it drifts, and it's horrible. And then on the second go-round, I went ahead and I picked Hunter. And I don't know if you've played the Crucible matches or not. You feel it in there when you're going against a frickin' Titan, and they backhand you once and you're down.
So obviously I picked Titan, because I like punching things, but Destiny 2 provides plenty of ways to make this Guardian really feel like your own unique avatar. Each class has its own set of subclasses, pulling from Arc, Solar, Stasis, and Void energy. In my case, I was able to shield the squad in an impenetrable bubble, go all Super Saiyan and start punching my way through aliens, and perform plenty of other heavy-hitting maneuvers. It felt great. You'll find your own rhythm with the classes too. Beyond those unique abilities, every Guardian has access to the same collection of gear and armor. Just as you choose a class, you can also choose a loadout. I very quickly learned which weapon types I prefer, and I eventually came to love the powder blue shader look for my armor. This was another moment where Destiny 2 began to click for me. I really started to feel like this was my character. There are many like him, but he is mine. And the first thing he did was wake up in the Cosmodrome and start the tutorial mission. This is one of the biggest differences between mine and Sid's experiences. At launch, she played the Red War campaign, which started with the destruction of the Guardian's Tower.
It was very much that Halo void. I mean, it was the same controls, but it was big, spectacular, beautiful graphics. New aliens, new villains, new everything.
When Destiny 2 went free to play and rebranded as New Light, the opening completely changed. From that point on, new players started in the Cosmodrome in a quasi-flashback to the first game. But while the moment-to-moment gameplay might have been very different, my initial experience was still very similar to Sid's. I also admired the scenery and scale of what I was seeing on my screen. That feeling continued as I visited other planets and spaceships. I was simply in awe of the set pieces as I continued to go deeper into space and face new foes. So, different scenery, but similar vibes. Also different ghosts.
It was a little weird with Peter Dinklage saying weird space stuff.
That wizard came from the moon.
To be honest, I don't think anyone could make that line sound cool. Good thing Nolan North does my voice now. Well, not now, but you know what I mean.
The game felt good immediately. Movement was fast and snappy. Guns handled so nicely with appropriate spread and kickback. That's to be expected from the studio that spent years building the Halo franchise, as Sid mentioned. I loved how little time it took before I felt powerful. These weapons are built for shooting aliens, and sure, the ones in the opening area are meant to go down pretty quickly, but even as I explored additional planets, I felt adequately equipped to take on Fallen, Scorn, Vex, and anything else that stood in my way. And I wasn't the only one. It only took a few steps out of the first building to see other players, and together we fought a big old tank. I suppose they could have been veterans starting with fresh characters, but it made no difference to a newcomer like me. I wasn't alone, not even in this first area. It felt like I had just been inducted into a club, and when I first arrived at the tower, that feeling continued. Here I met my club officials, as it were. Amanda Holiday, Drifter, Raoul, Shax, the list goes on. Each of our lovely Guardian classes has their own faction leader too. This is where mine and Sid's paths diverge again. I got to meet Titan Commander Zavala and Warlock Commander Ikora Rey, but there's another who was gone by the time I started my Destiny journey.
You have your Vanguard leaders, and these are the 3 people that have been guiding you through the entirety of the thing. They used Cade as a huge selling point for Destiny 2, because he was the Deadpool-esque, mouthy little idiot who was in the corner picking up chickens. I don't know why. But they used him as that selling point, and then at some point they just killed him. Who can say where the road goes?
Another example of how this game has changed over time, and perhaps another example of how overwhelming the game can be at any time. We just threw a lot of names at you after all. But let me give you another trick for compartmentalizing all these characters. They're the faces of important menus and mechanics. Zavala can set you up with Vanguard missions, Ikora Rey will help you upgrade your subclasses, Raoul can decode engrams and turn them into loot, the list goes on. Again. Essentially, each character has a gimmick. Each one is a pathway by which you can get gear or upgrades or other loot, and they will reward you for completing quests on their behalf. Framing all of these faces in this way helped Destiny 2 seem much less daunting to me again. I knew if I wanted to get some new abilities, Ikora was my point of contact. To learn about Gambit, I had to meet with the Drifter.
It's the chosen one. Slay any hive gods lately?
Gambit is one of many multiplayer-specific activities that Destiny 2 offers. We'll get back to the story and campaign missions in a moment, but for now, let's talk about the competitive scene. These modes are found within the same Destinations menu. So if you're still thinking of Destiny 2 as an FPS campaign with social stuff tacked on, then here's where you go for multiplayer. Most of which reminded me that I am indeed a Destiny noob.
I liked it until I didn't. It just kind of got to that point where certain weaponry was so widely used and used too much.
Since this channel is all about positivity, we won't dwell on Crucible for too long. It wasn't a favorite for me or Sid. Suffice it to say that like any other major FPS, there are a variety of PvP game types to get into, from free-for-all rumbles to capture point control matches.
Not every part of every game is for everyone, anyway.
It's true, but let me tell ya, I love Gambit. It's mostly PvE, pitting two gated-off teams against each other as they compete to slay enemies, collect motes, cash them in to summon a boss, then take down that boss first. It's like all the best parts of the game squished together into one cohesive multiplayer romp. And yes, that includes PvP, because you can invade the other team to mess with their flow.
I've gotten into small wars with people on my team because they won't let me invade, but like invading and rushing in when they've already been like bombarded with all of this bad stuff and you're just picking them off and you're like, it's deeply satisfying.
And I found it satisfying to just shred through primordials with sweet business, which quickly became my favorite weapon. Unlike Crucible, where I felt I was putting my team at a disadvantage just by being there, Gambit made me feel like an MVP. There are lots of co-op experiences in Destiny 2, but Gambit ended up being one of the most exhilarating.
You made that look simple.
Now's the perfect time to talk about those other co-op experiences. Remember how I said that you can think of Destiny 2 as an FPS campaign with social stuff built on top of it? Well, you'll see a whole lot of that simply by exploring each planet. It only takes a few small steps. That first tank fight I had with other Guardians made me feel like part of the club, and I immediately wanted to seek out other public events. There's a reason Ghost declares the Guardian motto when you first meet Shaw.
Guardians are stronger together. Isn't that right?
And I stand by every word of it.
That phrase is indicative of the overall Destiny experience. Social events happen every few minutes on every planet, so if you want a low-pressure way to start interacting with others outside of Crucible and Gambit, this is the way to go. Again, you can think of these like set pieces or mission objectives from a campaign, but they repeat to give you constant chances at new loot. During my time with Destiny 2, I fought more of those big tanks, escorted a vehicle, defended satellites, and took on blighted versions of regular enemies. Part of my apprehension about starting a game like this was a fear that no one else would be around, but that was squashed pretty quickly. In fact, it was rare for other players to not show up or already be present when I rallied at a banner before a public event. That was taken care of in strikes too. These are like smaller versions of the big-name raids, and since communication isn't required to clear them, I was automatically paired up with other random Guardians every time I took one on. Completing these was a blast, as I got to fight alongside other players and take down waves of enemies and tough bosses that I definitely wouldn't have been able to handle alone. Destiny 2's main missions can be taken on with friends at any time, and you can think of these strikes as being deliberately designed for co-op. I fought Navoda on my own during the early missions in the Cosmodrome, but it was only when I teamed up with others that I took her down for good. And all of that got done with total strangers.
Cass, Maeve, they can rest easier now, thanks to you.
When you had a dedicated group, awesome. Fun times, everybody kind of knew what they were doing. Unfortunately, everybody fell into a role, and we did those roles every single time. It was the same thing in the dungeon over and over and over. But it worked, and everybody got their gear.
Raids, on the other hand, demand constant communication among your fire team. These are the toughest challenges that Destiny 2 has to offer. Players have to solve puzzles, do some fancy platforming, fight waves and waves of enemies, battle the toughest bosses in the game, and more. It can take several hours to clear just one raid.
I was playing with a group of people that always like to attempt being the extreme keyword. They always like to attempt to be the first people to finish it. But when it's 6 people with a single brain cell and we don't know what the crap we're doing, we didn't get anywhere. So usually we would like wait a week and a half for somebody to post what the hell they did, and then we would follow them kind of step by step.
Of all the parts of the game I wanted to sample for this video, this is where I feared I'd face the biggest roadblock. And it definitely was a learning process. Some of the raid rooms require very specific callouts and coordination, which I went into completely blind. Thankfully, I was with people who were willing to teach, and by the end of my first successful run in Vault of Glass, I felt ready to help other newcomers through their first runs. When my time came to pick up the shield and beat down an otherwise invincible Minotaur, I stepped up to the plate and did the darn thing, and it felt so good to pull it off. Raids are full of these epic moments. Everyone who's played them has a story to share.
The first time we beat Crota was huge. It was like 2 a.m. The poor guy that we nominated to go kill Crota managed to get the final hit in. And I mean, everybody, it was jumping, yelling, hollering, like, we finally did it, because we spent weeks trying to kill that fucker.
Once you clear your first raid, you'll have your own story to share. Destiny 2 is like a dressed-up FPS campaign, where co-op is encouraged in general missions, but absolutely critical for raids. I gained such a respect for the clans that attempt to do these on day one like Sid did. To solve these puzzles and win these fights and be the first ones in the world to do it is so impressive. It's totally worth stepping out of the single-player comfort zone to go for it yourself. The sense of triumph I got from taking down Atheon and Vault of Glass was unparalleled in the rest of the game, and it felt even better knowing I'd done it with a team.
Guardians are stronger together, even if they're dicks to each other sometimes.
That is an important caveat. As with any community, there are going to be rude people. In my case, I used the Destiny Companion app to join groups who needed additional bodies for the raid, but there is an inherent risk with this method.
It was the worst experience using that back in the day. You'd get people that would use you to get through a certain section of the dungeon, and they would drop you. They would kick you out.
In my case, I was upfront about being a newcomer as soon as I joined the raid, but I did what I was told, pointed my gun where they wanted me to shoot, and we got through it. Of course, my experience is going to vary from Sid's with this stuff, and unfortunately, it is largely due to our gender differences.
There's been enough times where I've been harassed where I just stop talking. I don't even have the headset in. Sometimes I'll plug the headset in if there's children screaming, and that's only so I don't have to hear them, or like individually mute everybody.
It's not all dudes watching my videos, so experiences with the app and online interaction are going to vary. I was admittedly quite lucky. I wound up with players who were willing to teach, and they'll be thanked at the end of this video for that reason. But if I may offer any suggestions for getting into raids and other activities that require communication, let it be this. Be upfront with your expectations and experience level, and definitely go in with friends if you can. If you're watching this video, I can almost guarantee you know someone who's played Destiny. If they're not an active player right now, then maybe your first time will be the incentive they need to get back into it. And when you're the odd one out in a group of raiders who know what they're doing, just be an honest person, do your best, and communicate. And if you get kicked out, at least you know you were doing the right thing.
Be the guardian you want to see in the world.
Bingo. And those experiences will pay off, literally in the case of loot. Each raid means the chance to score some of those all-important exotic weapons. I don't remember when I got my aforementioned sweet business, but boy do I love that auto rifle. Plus, I got an emblem that says I finished Vault of Glass, and you know I immediately equipped that thing because I wanted people to know. Just as Sid and I traded stories about raids and epic moments, we also talked about our favorite gear.
Galahorn from Destiny 1 will always be a ride or die, even though they made it sadder in Destiny 2. I have one in Destiny 2, I don't remember the name of it. It's like the four-headed Cerberus or something like that. I'll have to look it up. Does it do optimal damage? No. Does it shoot a lot of bullets? No. But I'm super comfortable with that weapon, and I hate the fact that I booted up the game this past weekend just to check it out, and it's so underpowered now, and I have to get rid of it. And then I'm a sucker for Kate's hand cannon too.
Sid actually hit on something important there, and it's the last big point I need to talk about. Seasonal content. Since going free to play, Destiny 2 shifted over to a seasonal model. There are still tentpole expansions like Witch Queen and whatnot, but there are also regular refreshes with each new season of content. Sometimes that means a weapon you really like could be cycling out for a bit, so there's no harm in going online, looking up the one you want, and focusing your attention on that. Just be prepared to do it a lot.
The grind never stops, so never think that you're going to be finished trying to get the next best weapon because they'll get rid of it.
The bright side is that with an ongoing grind comes ongoing content. It feels like there's always something new to do, or revisit, or retry in Destiny 2. And that's only going to continue as the team at Bungie adds more seasonal missions that pit you against a rising hive, or nightmares of the past, or straight up space pirates.
Wow, we've sure covered a lot of ground today, Guardian. Any last-minute advice, Sidney?
All of those random events, they are timed. If you want to expedite, like, any of the processes, any of your dailies, your weeklies, just check the timers.
Allow me to wrap this up with a few final thoughts too. I know I didn't touch on everything in this video, and I'm fully open to criticism from Destiny veterans out there. But for all the newbies like me, I hope this retelling of my first experiences with the game helps make it a lot less scary for you to give it a go. I had plenty of apprehensions when I started too, but as I took my first steps in the tutorial, met my Vanguard comrades in the tower, tried out the competitive stuff, and worked with others in public events, strikes, and raids, each fear subsided as I learned more about how this impressively large game operates. A little peek behind the curtain here, that's how a lot of my videos tend to come together. Some spark of an idea or desire to play a game drives me to put in the time and find a fun angle and take notes. And the deeper I go, everything starts getting clearer as my thoughts come together. Playing Destiny 2 is a lot like that. There's tons of stuff to learn here, no doubt. It's a live game that's been around for 5 years as I make this video. But what I hope what you've seen, as Sid and I both shared our stories, is that no matter when you jump in, finding your footing feels pretty much the same. We all have to start sometime, and when we do, we wind up with our own stories to tell about how it went. If you just need to think of Destiny 2 as a Halo-like space shooter with a bunch of extra pieces tacked on, that's okay too. There's always something to do in this game, and what matters is that you do something. I hope this video can be that final nudge that gets you to give it a try. In my book, that's a successful mission.
The Hive look like they're withdrawing and the Cabal are on the run.
Yes, excellent work.
Tony's on another raid, so it's my job to thank you for watching this video and thank Sidney for being a part of it. Please hit that subscribe button in the middle because it would be a big help to the channel, and you can hit that button on the far left to watch some of the other stuff we've created. We'll see you next time, Guardian.